sets of questions has to do with national security. And I believe we will start with Mr. Mumpower this time. Do you believe the long-term stability of Iraq plays an important role in America's national security? And as a member of Congress, what would you do to help accomplish this?
I'll speak candidly with you. I believe we made a mistake in going to Iraq. I think we would have better invested our energies elsewhere, especially in Afghanistan. Having said that, I was in Vietnam in 1971 and 72. I got to see what happens when America does not keep its word. We're there, and we betray the service and sacrifice of the men and women that are there, and have been there, and died there, if we walk away now. What I would advocate for is this. Do you remember Purple Fingers? One of the first things we should do is have a referendum among the Iraqi people. Do you want us here? Are you willing to fight with us? Unless we get a super majority vote, a super majority that says yes to those questions, then we should begin a phased withdrawal. I do not believe it's just about us. It is about the Iraqi people. It is about the people who have served and died. It is about our future. And I would not walk away from that responsibility. Thank you.
This question gets to the sharpest difference between the candidates that you have up here. As you know, the FISA law is up for renewal. That's Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The Senate of the United States passed it. The House has refused to vote because Nancy Pelosi ran out of town and would not schedule a vote. Why? Because it probably would pass if it reached the House floor, but she keeps it off the floor. Why? Because she stands for the ACLU. And the ACLU think that terrorists have exactly the same rights as Americans, and that therefore they should be defended in all respects, even if Americans die as a result of it. The position that Carl Mumpower takes is that that law should not be renewed. And the bottom line is quite simple. If it is never renewed, Americans are going to die. It's a question of how many and how soon, as a direct result of that law going down to defeat, because it never got a vote in the House. The idea, and Carl suggested this in a debate 2 days ago in Asheville, that the Fourth Amendment protects the right of somebody in Basra not to have his phone call intercepted is simply non-applicable. The Constitution is for we, the people of the United States of America. It says so in its opening line. This is an issue of the ACLU and the Liberal Democrats. I have been fighting the ACLU in court for 20 years. I will fight them as long as I have breath in my body, and this is one of the issues on which I will fight.
It's my opinion that the only reason America goes to war is to promote democracy. In all the wars in the history of our country, that's the only reason we've done it. When it gets hard to be in the war, a lot of Americans want to leave. And a lot of politicians on occasion have made that possible, much to our chagrin. And they've damaged the reputation of this great nation in doing that. We're at war today because people are being abused by dictators and despotic regimes in the Middle East. We're at war today because we believe in what we stand for. And we believe, as do many young Americans, that it's worth fighting and dying for. And that's why we're in Iraq. This isn't about Iraq, though. This is about an international terrorism perpetrated by Muslim extremists. And if we don't deal with it in the Middle East, we'll be dealing with it in Europe, as we already are, in a sense, in China, in Asia, in America. Why would we leave Iraq before we've neutralized the threat that is currently there, before it moves on somewhere else, and the job is much more difficult? As difficult as that may seem, we have an obligation to what we started. We have an obligation to ourselves to finish it. The other party seems to think that there's nothing to this except getting out as fast as we can. I take exception to that. I don't want to get into the FISA issue, but I think we're there for the right reason. I think we're doing the right thing. And I think as hard as it is, and as many mistakes as we've made, there are reasons for leaving and doing what we've done in the past. Their reasons for staying and getting the job done.
Each of the candidates were told before this started that if any time their name was mentioned, that they would have the opportunity to do a rebuttal for 1 minute upon that request. That request has been made.
I appreciate it, Mr. Armour, saying this is one of the areas that differentiates us. It does. And the fact that I will not twist my words or other people's words. The Constitution is about the people of America. There are arguments for FISA, arguments against FISA. If you will we talk about the Senate passing FISA, this is the same Senate that also has a strong position about amnesty for illegal aliens and other things that I would disagree with strongly. It simply comes down to this. You either believe in the Constitution of America or you do not. And I do. And I will uphold it above all other priorities, including safety. If you're willing to sacrifice the Constitution for safety, it's a mistake. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That's the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution. We should not ignore it. If we want to change it, we have a procedure for doing that. If you ignore this document, you destroy it. It ceases to be relevant. I will not abide by that.
Did you want to say something?
Well, since we seem to be talking about FISA, I'd like to add my 2 cents. I think there's a difference between talking about the Constitution and what is the intent of the Constitution, which is to shield us from our own government, quite frankly, and talking about a technical ability within an intelligence framework. Intelligence is a highly specialized field that requires the very best capability for our government to have at its beck and call to deal with threats that are highly unusual and highly fleeting. They're only there for a short period of time. And if we pass on the opportunity to collect that information against those people that are, in effect, planning to do us harm, and we're not violating the Constitution, we're defending the Constitution, we're protecting this great nation from those that would do it harm. There is no relationship between the FISA issue and the Constitution that is inconsistent. In fact, we're asking for trouble if we don't take advantage of the kinds of things we need in the intelligence business to give the decision makers information they need to make the right decision. I mean, it's as plain as the nose on your face. That's what this is about. And those that don't understand that will have a hard time in Congress promoting the welfare of this country.
We'll allow one more.
Well, this is an important subject. I'm glad we're getting into it deeply. The Constitution of the United States is not a suicide pact. And it helps a little bit to crack open a history book. In World War II, President Roosevelt listened in on all shortwave radios and read all mail going outside the United States and coming into the United States. Why was that? To find out if there were things going on that we needed to know about to keep Americans from getting killed. That's part of our history, and that's exactly what FISA does. History is a great teacher, but you got to crack the book to learn it.